Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for Economic Times Digital Roundtable powered by Dell Technologies and Galaxy Automation. The theme for today's roundtable is Smart Data and Scalable Storage for Scoring Business Game. I am Dimple Bajwa, your host for this session. In today's data-centric world, your data is your business. Data is the key to delivering rich, personalized experiences in the digital world. Data-driven digital transformation is no longer just a strategic initiative, but a new way to work, interact, and do business together with customers, with employees, and with the world. IT is no more a back-end business function. It has moved front and center for your business. You will need the ability to instantly adapt to a rapidly changing new normal. To adapt, you must have access to the right data at the right time, in the right place, and most importantly, at the right pace. In a nutshell, the need of the hour is to take care of your data and have the right storage formula. The need is to optimize any workload and discover the value in your data, accelerating your critical workloads from core to edge to cloud while decreasing application outages and reducing storage requirements with advanced deduplication should be at fingertips. Today's session will help you discover the formula of business success with smart data and scalable storage. You will also learn about the groundbreaking PowerStore family of all-flash data storage appliances that eliminate traditional trade-offs in performance, scalability, and storage efficiency with a data-centric, intelligent, and adaptable infrastructure that transforms and mobilizes both traditional and modern workloads. Let me now introduce you to our speakers. We have with us today Ritu Madhvavi, Group Chief Information Officer, FCB Ulka Advertising Private Limited, Rupesh Nirgude, CDO, Prison Johnson Limited, Deepak Bhosle, GM IT, Asian Paints India Limited, Nihar Patre, Vice President ICT, 63 Moons Technologies Limited, Jayanta Lahiri, EVP and Global CTO, First Source Solutions Limited, Manish Israni, Executive Vice President and CIO, Yota Infrastructure, Saurabh Jain, Director Technology, Cloud Practice, Galaxy Automation, Arun Rungta, Director Cloud Practice, Galaxy Automation, Sajid Chakingal, Leader of Global Technology Services and India Technology Center, TMF Group, Vishwanath Acharya, Senior Systems Engineer, Storage Platform and Solutions, Dell Technologies, Ramesh Budurup, Channel Manager West, Dell Technologies, and to moderate the session, we have Sheena George, Partner EY. Without further ado, I would now invite Sheena to take it from here. Over to you, Sheena.
Thank you, Dimple, and I hope I'm audible to everyone. Warm welcome to our esteemed host of panelists, as well as our expert group who will be bringing in their thoughts based on some of the conversations we'll be having across the roundtable. Without much ado, I think Dimple has done a very good job of introducing the context. But today we will be covering a host of topics around the area of smart storage and data handling. And we will be talking about how all of some of our esteemed panelists here have managed data, how they're managing their storage, how they're managing their data centers, their journey of moving from an on-premise data center based solution to cloud, whether it is full or hybrid. We'll touch upon the areas of how they've managed the security and compliance regulations around that. We'll also touch a little bit around the new models of pricing that they have adopted in these innovative times. We will also touch upon how some of our panelists have moved their organizations during COVID to a complete remote work from anywhere kind of model, and how technology has enabled them to adopt that journey. So let me go first to Ritu. Ritu, warm welcome. And it's not too late, but wish you a very happy Women's Day. We are lucky to have you on the panel here. You come from an advertising industry, ma'am. And in the context of advertising industry, on a daily basis, you're dealing with humongous volumes of data, a lot of which is unstructured data, and wanted to take your thoughts on how you have dealt with this problem from a handling of volumes of data and unstructured data specifically. What has been your experience and journey in addressing this challenge around storage with exponential data growth? Ritu, you're on mute. You may need to start again.
Sorry. So I've been with Ulka for 23 years, and I think the issues which started day one, to a large extent, they continue. I mean, it's just the volume has grown, the scale has grown, and we've brought some sort of method to the madness. I remember when I joined the organization and I was totally from a non-advertising, non-end user platform. I was a good person I was a person who knew only programming. So plunged into the end user, stay with everything. And within the first week, I was told that, okay, our main problem is that we have huge amount of data. They don't, at that time, we didn't have Macs, we had PCs. Their PCs keep crashing, and you're not going to be able to do anything with the users because they are advertising people, so they do not believe in discipline. If you tell them to wear a sari, they'll come in shorts. So that was a one-line brief which was given to me and said, can you sort it? So we started, and honestly, I think we've gone baby steps, right, from developing something which put things on CD, putting some sort of a naming convention and all. To an extent, I think that we have now been trying to automate wherever, because one thing I've realized is that the only way you're going to be able to do it is automate as much as you can, to the level that they just have to say client and their brand and the job number which comes, and then it automatically puts it in the right place. Because if you expect people to go and say, put it in this thing, so that is the whole naming. I think reason I'm going into this is that it's just not a technical thing of finding a technical solution as to where you are going to store it. It is also getting the discipline into it and getting people to buy into it. And I can go on and on about it. Maybe later on when we get into challenges, I'll go there. So then that was one part of it. Second part was, irrespective what you have as a data, what we also discovered was that very often you would have, I couldn't say, okay, fine, the campaign is over, it's published, now we don't need it anymore, because incidentally, we celebrated 60 years last month. And we actually have a client, Zodiac, who's been with us for the entire 60 years. So we have a legacy of long, clients over a long period of time. And it is very common in an advertising industry for the client to come back and say, 10 years ago, we had done this. Can you take it out? I don't know how many of you have been during the lockdown, seen a lot of Amul ads have revived. A lot, so Amul is our client. It's been there forever. So when you have to do something like this, what you do is you basically churn out the old creatives, do modifications in them. So we don't have the luxury of saying that, okay, we're going to have this data and we're going to throw it off after some time. So there is a whole thing. So now we needed a solution where we needed a certain storage which was on-prem, because when you're working on current set of data, it needs to be on-prem because the size is huge. You can't be traveling over the network to get it. However, once the campaign is over, we need to be able to put it somewhere where I need a storage which is less costly, and I should be easily be able to get it. But now again, when we were evaluated, finally we went for a hybrid solution, which actually worked in a scenario which worked on time frame. That okay, if you haven't used the data for a specific time, automatically it will go and sit on the cloud. So you have to understand what are our requirements. So let me rephrase our requirements from an ad industry's current working data on-prem. You need to be able to work on it on the premises. Data which you are not going to be using, again, you can go and put it on the cloud. Having said that, I do not want a scenario where once data is not on-prem, the users come running to IT. We have to have a scenario where it is without coming to IT, because trust me, they will get a requirement in the middle of the night. You can't have an engineer, we can't work on a scenario where we say, okay, now you've asked engineer is going to be able to dig it out, take it out. So again, this is how it is. So we have now gone and structured our data but again, you see the storage costs vary. If you have a scenario where you're going to be able to allow users to be able to access it, that's more costlier than you're putting it in a full-blown archival thing where you need an engineer. So we have had to go ahead, prioritize data, structure it. So if you want me to put it in a nutshell, discipline how to store data. After discipline, then you decide the model, what should be the hot data, which is the work you're working on. What is it that you may need it by the users immediately? And what is it where the probability is very low and you put it there? So that's the nutshell of it.
That was good, Ritu. And what a testimony to have a customer for 60 years. I mean, that is beautiful. Very, very, prized thing to have. And congratulations for completing 60 years anniversary. But from what you said, I think you touched upon three critical elements. One is deciding who's going to use data and what kind of data, and depending on the user group you will decide where that data needs to be residing and how, and that's part one. Second part you touched upon is pricing, cost effectiveness, right? And the third thing you touched upon, and very rightly so, is discipline. And you mentioned how you took a journey from scenario where things were probably on Excel files, PCs, password protected. You moved to a much more robust and automated solution over the years, and your challenge has been dealing with a user community that comes from a very non-tech background. So having to cater around that
Actually, it's not
has been
non-tech. Sorry, not they're very techy. Trust me, because we
okay.
have a very young generation. Our
Right.
average age is in 30s, early 30s. So they're extremely tech, non-disciplined.
Non-disciplined. Okay, very rightly said.
Discipline plays it very well. They're very, very tech, but they're extremely, because the whole logic is we are creative, we need an environment. I mean, trust me, our office has a lounge where people are playing chess, there's somebody's playing a guitar, somebody's on a recliner. So the whole atmosphere is very different.
Yes, and of course, in the advertising industry, the thing that you're trying to channel from all your employees is their creativity and other things. So definitely, I can imagine the kind of crowd that you're catering to. But that gives a good segue into what we're going to ask Mr. Jayanta next. Jayanta, you yourself are a provider of solution for your own customers, and you have had to address these needs internally as well. How have you? What has your journey been in terms of addressing your needs for storage, and the process you have adopted in terms of making your decision as to what will be in-house, what will be on-premise, full cloud versus hybrid? Could you walk us through your journey, Mr. Jayanta?
Absolutely, and thank you for having me on this session. I'm the CIO of FirstSource, and FirstSource is an ITS company. And so, from a data perspective, we had two challenges, and primarily those challenges came in during the pandemic time. And our industry is highly compliance-driven, security-driven, and we are mostly into banking, into mortgage, into collection business, into healthcare, both insurance and hospitals, right? So all these industries are highly compliance driven, security driven. For example, for hospitals, PHI, patient data, is extremely important, and we are bound to cater to PHI and PII information. What it means really is that we cannot get any data download in India. It has to be all kept in North America or UK or whichever geography that they're in. And most of our clients, I would say 90% of our global BPO clients are based in either in the US or in the UK, right? So while we were, migrating from a work from office environment to a work from home environment when the pandemic really hit us about a year back, one of the challenges that we had was that most of this data has to be moved to cloud, because work from home comes mandatorily that your data has to reside on cloud so that your workforce can work globally wherever they are, whichever home they are, and connect seamlessly to our cloud. So all the applications, some of the applications are already there in the cloud. So we are very thankful that, our technology team has already planned much well in advance as a part of cloud migration journey. And most of our applications are already there in the cloud, but there are some applications which are still residing on premise. And the idea was that for a cloud migration, the data has to reside somewhere close to the application, wherever it is, to ensure that there is no latency issue. So as we move to cloud, the next challenge came that, okay, how do we move the data to cloud, and whether there is any hybrid solution possible to have some of the data in on-premise and some of the data in cloud. And that also needed some application modernization to ensure that it can access our data from anywhere it is, right? So finally, what we ended up doing was that we divided our data into two parts. One is legacy data, which is more than a year or two old, and kept that data on premise. And whichever the recent data, which is 1 year or 2 years old, which are needed for our day-to-day application and day-to-day associates and a day-to-day business use. So that data was kept on cloud. So that was a migration which we did, going from a isolated cloud versus on-premise data to a hybrid kind of a data storage on cloud. And that has helped us hugely, because when you talk about data storage on cloud, it comes by pay per use. So I don't have to invest permanently on a storage. I can just pay whenever I need the storage, whenever I enhance the storage, whenever I don't need the storage. I can pay on a month-on-month basis to whichever cloud provider that we have. So that is one part of it. The other part of it is, as when this migration was happening, we also wanted to kind of analyze our data, whatever external, or internal data that we have, structured, unstructured. So we get data from social media, from mobile, from multiple HR systems, multiple client interactions, and so on and so forth. So here, there's a huge amount of data. So the idea was to have a centralized data warehousing solution, and club bundled with AI and ML, artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities, to run analytics of all the data that we have, both from a client perspective or from an employee perspective or from market perspective or social media perspective. So that was again a different kind of a data journey that we had. So to put it in a nutshell, cloud storage, pay per use is extremely important. Hybrid cloud is extremely important. Hybrid storage is extremely important from a work from home scenario, and also data warehousing as a service. That also came to us as a service.
Wonderful, Mr. Jayanta. So to recap what I heard from you, you're working in an industry which is highly regulatory oriented, simply because you have clients that are probably compliant to several US and UK based laws with a very stringent, both from a security perspective as well as many healthcare specific guidelines and regulations that they have, as your customers are based in the US and UK. And that came with restrictions as to where your data can reside. So you talked about data residency, you talked about data latency, right? And your journey about how you adopted that you will go hybrid, your thought process in terms of what will be on-prem and what will be on cloud, which I think makes total sense. And you had to do it all in a very short time. And I think it's a great journey. And it's interesting that even your data warehousing is in a as a service kind of model. We should come back to that at a later point of time. But quickly, I will move over to our expert panel here, and maybe Vish, I can bring you in. Right now at Dell,
Oh,
you
yeah.
are seeing, I mean, many customers, and they have similar journeys. And what would be your recommendation for a
Oh, yeah.
client
I think,
of like we have Ritu from an advertising industry, or Jayanta for the kind of clients that you have? What kind of journey would you recommend,
oh, absolutely.
for your
Thanks, Sheena. And I think I can completely relate to what Ritu and Jayanta was explaining us, or telling us how the journey was and how the journey is continuous, always continuous. And I think Ritu clearly told also that, and Jayanta, and everything that he spoke is about data, right? It has to be data centric, all kinds of workloads. You can't just define different kinds of workload. Now, how do I manage that? Can I automate it a lot better? So the entire Power Store architecture has been developed primarily to do these three important things. Look at data centric, all kinds of workload, performance optimized. Why do I need that? That's the most important thing, because you need all kind of workload. You need scalable, you need scale out architecture, where means I can have 60 years of data still managing that kind of workload. And you need performance. Tomorrow somebody says after 10 years I need the same kind of performance, finish my rendering activity, finish my editing work and everything else, and then archiving and place it. How do I do the data management is the most important thing. All kind of workload, performance. Can I do a lot of data massaging, which can be primarily driven towards efficiency, protection. We're talking about data compression of data so that I get better efficiency. Automation is the key. And I think everybody is known. We are growing. Every industry is growing. You can't do the same day-to-day operational work by just having a lot of IT administrators do that. we need programmable infrastructure. And how do I do that? Is based on the workload, let it be AI, ML that you were referring to, Jayanta sir. All of that need automation which can make it more agile. You need to have cloud-like environment in the organization. And what you very validly said that, you know, you need to adopt both models. Let it be hybrid, which is in-house as well as public, because different types of workload, different types of activities are required to be performed. Now, the important thing is, are we looking at performance? Latency is equally important? Yes. If that is the case, how do you manage that kind of workload is important. Now, I knowing how global, how 5G is going to transpire, how industry is going to use that, and I think the journey is very clear. We're talking just not data center to cloud now. We're talking edge. We're talking edge computing going very fast. It's been there for some time now. Edge computing is going to be there, but the entire infrastructure was not there. Look at edge computing now catering to BFSI customers. We are talking about retail customers. We are talking about healthcare. Can I do that AI ML activity? Use the critical applications like SAP to manage your sales and distribution finance? And are we talking integration to Leonardo right now and do IoT integration and do it at a local edge level and have only the process data sent across to the cloud? And if there is the whole purpose of moving from core, which you will have a centralized location, can I have this workload move to cloud as and when my big billion days comes in the market from Amazon? Look at all these seasonal Diwali festivals and so on. Can I scale? Yes, you should be in a position to scale from in-house to a scale out to a cloud as well, and come back. For that, modernization of applications are also important, what Jayanta said. And I think it's a journey, and I think we can cater to most of it. And it'll be nice to connect back with both of you again. Sir. Thank you. Saurabh, if you have anything to add or yeah.
Yeah, so I think I just wanted to, as of now, I wanted to mention that the discussion is going very good, and obviously as and when needed, I'll give my inputs so we can continue as of now.
Perfect. Thanks.
Thank you, Vish.
Thanks.
And Saurabh, I think what you touched upon is how some of your solutions are basically catering to programmable infrastructure, which can basically cater to what you call as the
edge to core to cloud. Everybody wants.
Cloud.
Yeah.
Okay.
So don't think cloud first. Look at data first, and what everybody is thinking the same. So it's about how do you manage that data, right workload, right place, and that's how it works beautifully.
Perfect. Thank you, Vish. And I think I will move quickly to Mr. Deepak. And Deepak, Asian Paints is going through a very unique and interesting phase. You've recently ventured into a new space of home decor and interior design, and you launched it in COVID. And that called for a digital marketplace that had to be created where you can offer a differentiated customer experience related to the competition. How has your journey been to enable a strong technology-based virtual reality, AI/ML-based e-commerce solution in a short time frame, and that to build on top of insights, that data you would have had in your systems over decades? Could you walk us through this journey, Deep?
Sure. Thanks. Am I audible? Thanks.
Yes,
so Asian Paints, as you all know, has always been a digital forward company, and we've been investing in digital technologies since the 1970s. And somewhere all of these investments really paid off when we went into COVID, because we were COVID ready in that sense, because a lot of our self-service channels came into play. So when our physical office is shut, we were able to seamlessly move our entire transaction loads from the contact center to the work from home agents. Our dealer, contractor ecosystem were able to do it through self-service portals. We were able to push debit money directly to the contractor accounts through direct bank transfers to ensure that their livelihood is unaffected. So a lot of these digital investments really helped us in COVID. But when it comes to data management strategy, the view I have is it all needs to emanate from your organizational strategy. If at the top, if you believe that digital is going to be a competitive differentiator and you're going to be digital throughout, from there you will need to have a data strategy which is a subset of your overall digital strategy. And when you're talking about data strategy, you need to be extremely clear in terms of which are those businesses which are going to be data driven. There are certain businesses where we are going to actually compete with players who are very tech heavy. For example, if you look at the new business which we launched in COVID, which is the home decor business. Asian Paints traditionally has been a paints plus services company, but over the last early part of the last decade, we slowly started direct to customer services. We acquired a kitchen brand, we acquired a bathroom fitting brand, and this over the years it allowed us to understand the entire space of home decor, and that's where we launched a complete home decor interior design and execution service. Now this is a play which is dominated by tech startups, and the tech startups are digitally native. They're extremely data driven. They're looking at gathering various sources of data and pushing back the insights to create a better experience. So we had to play that game in that manner. And traditional companies saying we are going to be digital native was a huge cultural change. We had to reorient the way we think about approaching customer delight, and that's where I said, okay, the customer goes through an entire phase of inspiration. He goes through a phase where he wants to be inspired with great designs. Then we are able to probably allow him to try a few things. We take him into a visualization space where he can see how his house looks with various settings, a sofa set, a kitchen, a bathroom fitting, tiles of various combinations, and then you have him sign up, and then you get into execution phase where you get in the carpenter, electrician, mason, and all the works. So you need to have an entire ecosystem which is actually binding the partners, Asian Paints, and the customer, so that the service gets delivered seamlessly. Now, for such an ecosystem, you would have a lot of structured, unstructured data, and all that needs to be managed intelligently. You need to decide what part of it needs to be real time, what part of it is going to be used for pure analysis, what part of it you need to take to the cloud, because you need to do a lot of strategic analysis there, and hence you need to have enough compute, enough power to run those AI/ML algorithms which tell us what is the intent of the customer and start pushing a new service back to the customer. There will be very few transactional needs which probably could be stored in your on your on-premise, which goes back as operational tactical reports. So how do you move from being a diagnostic reports to being getting on the predictive space? So all that needs to have a very solid data management strategy. Fortunately, we've been on Dell for pretty long, and all our transaction, 80% of our transaction loads run on a Dell infrastructure, and we've been able to scale well. And there's a lot of learning from the paint business which we have taken into the home decor business. So for us, as I speak, today our customer, we've really done close to 500 homes. We started off with COVID, where we were doing remote consulting, where customers were trying to create beautiful homes for them. And as I speak, a lot of data is now getting generated. All this data is all customer preferences, which we are able to see and turn back as newer propositions. And we're monitoring our net promoter scores, their satisfaction scores. They are really doing well. So I think very fundamental to this business is data, because you need this entire business works on a data-driven strategy, and I guess making the right investments helps you create that strategic lever whenever you're getting into a new business.
That is wonderful, Deepak. It is a great case study, I would say. And you touched upon a very interesting nuance that is an underplay of everything we've spoken about, which is the cultural change. And I think it would have been felt very starkly in your case. Can you talk us through a little bit of how Asian Paints underwent that cultural change part of it? If you can just throw some light, we can then move on to
Sure. So, being very digital as a part of the DNA of Asian Paints, we realize that when I say we're digital, it means that we are constantly tracking what are the digital technologies that are trending, how can you bring them into your organization to improve your processes, either to create a wow experience for a customer or to bring enormous internal efficiencies or create new digital products. So this is the philosophy within Asian Paints. Now, as a part of that, we realized AI, ML, data analytics is going to be a big thing for us. So close to around 24 to 28 months back, we said we should drive an initiative called making an organization an insight-driven organization, which is IDO. And when we said we want to make an insight-driven organization, it means that it needs to start right at the top. The leadership needs to be convinced that an insight-driven organization is a way to go, which means that you move your entire decision making, which probably was a lot more intuitive, a lot more based on experience, to moving to having a good mix of looking at data patterns, looking at predicting your future and taking your decisions. And this change is actually a pretty big cultural change, because there are pretty experienced folks in Asian Paints who know the market. Now, if you tell them, data is also going to help you to actually check your intuitions, check your hypothesis, I think you really, then your chances of making a good decision improve significantly. And that's a change we wanted to bring. So what we did is we just first got the leadership highly activated, energized. We said, you have to be AI, ML visionaries for your own functions. We got a few professors from reputed institutions, had them trained, got them the basic concepts, and then we started saying, okay, let's invest in a few data scientists, let's get in a few active spots in every function, let's start doing small POCs. Like then we said, manufacturing looks like a great area to start. Because we have very automated factories, extremely automated. A lot of IoT data is there. So we took the IoT data, we took the SAP data, we took the machine data, the MES data, and all at one place, brought it to the cloud, created a complete digital twin of our factories. So now you could start simulating your problems in the digital twin before you actually took action in the factories. Now this, as it by just putting this up, our cycle times began to show massive improvements, and that really opened the eyes of the entire organization. Hey, this is what AI ML can do to a function, to do to your KPIs, and everybody wanted to onboard on it. All the leaders were coming to IT and saying, we also would want to carry out some AI/ML initiatives. Then we went about putting then we said we need to be algorithmically driven. When we said, can we take certain targets on how much of your business can come on algorithms? So those are the discussions we started getting into. Then we started putting up recommendation algorithms, just like the one you see in Amazon or Flipkart. Can you start recommending products to your dealer community on what they should be buying? And now we have already implemented that on our dealer portal, and there is a certain portion of the same which is coming purely to that algorithm. So these are the small things we did across multiple pockets in the organization, so that everybody gets activated and we really march on becoming an insight-driven organization. And I think that's as at the moment it is working well for us. We are now looking at what next in terms of really taking it ahead and really creating that differentiator for our businesses. It's a lot of culture, it's a lot of management buy-in, it's a lot of in terms of doing POCs and amplifying the successes across the organization. And obviously the technology is now matured, the cloud is easily affordable, the algorithms have got matured. There are so many young folks coming with from schools which are already training them on the basics, so they just it gets easy to start in that sense. So that's been our journey when it comes to an insight to an organization.
Wonderful, Mr. Deepak. That was a very good story, very passionately shared. Thank you so much. And I think the key things which you touched upon is absolutely relevant. You said insight-driven organization. To do a transformation of this kind, unless it comes top-down and it's embedded into the culture of every leader, it's really not possible to make it run-of-the-mill, right? And I think the way Asian Paints has gone about, you said you brought professors in, you brought data scientists in, and you brought in a culture of doing small POCs and making those POCs successful and relevant, and more leaders are buying into that theory. And I think that's a very good case study by itself, Deepak. Thank you so much. I'm going to quickly move to Mr. Nihar. Nihar, you have moved recently as well to a fully remote working model, and you had to have your development teams be enabled to work from anywhere as well, and you had to bring in your VDI, whether it is storage or what, or however, overnight you had to change your business model. How has your journey of this transition been? What challenges did you face along the way, and would you say that you are past all those challenges and it's well behind you, or would you say there's a long way to go still? Ms. Nihar, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Well, I start with the last question. Challenges are there, would be there, and it's a journey like what Vish said. It's going to be a continuous journey. How you take it, how do you adopt, and how you improve is what we are looking at. We at 63 Moons, being a financial technologies company, we have a product software which holds somewhere around 70 to 75% of the market share for the last decade. There's been a lot of competition, but we are still the market leaders in what product that we give for the BFSI sector. Because of the IPR that we have, remote working was only occasionally for a few travelers and a few sick people if they really were not able to come to office. Otherwise, everything was really secured. We actually breathe in security. We live by very stringent security measures, which are unheard in the industry. Yeah, I'll take that topic off somewhere sometimes later. But we were given 48 hours, like most of us, to move for work from home. The lockdown came in, and we were thinking we do have a model. We have a scalable model. We have a lot of good partners. We designed a solution within the next 6 hours, sitting with a team of around 30 people. And we decided to test it out in the next 3 hours. And we were going live in 16 hours with our stuff. What we did is basically we started giving remote of the desktops of your users. We had to disable all the data download and upload. It just came as a VDI from the desktop. The bandwidth had to be improved. Uh, the security part, we saw that when you use a VPN type of a structure, the weakest link is just your password. You have your password. If you're not implemented certificate, it's easier to crack and get in. So we were the first. We implemented around 6 months back passwordless authentication for all our applications. While you're logging into remote access to your Outlook, it's all passwordless. So it adds in a new layer of security. We were innovative because once we started moving into this journey, we saw that people were working more efficiently. We had 25% more output, which we had not envisaged. We thought people would be more casual working at home, but they could work at different orders. So what we wanted insight into data, and what we did is we designed immediately in the next 3 months because of the need. And we, being a development company, we came up with an app for ICT. Yeah, and we gave it to all HODs and managers. So live, you could see how many people logged in yesterday on a graph from your department, who is currently live right now on your fingertips, and how long he has been there. So you could always call up a person and say that, okay, you're live, can you do this? Could you give me this? We did not want to disturb, and it was a complete flexible time. So from, if you see the graph for yesterday, people have logged in from 4:30 in the morning, and the last person to log off was 12:30 in the night. Yeah, so you gave them this flexibility in a very secured way. And we did a survey the first month. First month, 90% of the people wanted to stay back home. We did the same survey after 3 months. 75% now wanted to stay home. And after 6 months, this came down to 45 to 50%. And again, we did it around a couple of months back. And this percentage hasn't changed a lot. So it's around 50% who really want to be there, and 50% still want to get back to office. They are not able to cope up with the resident stress, and we are trying to get improvement on that. How do we arrange the timings and all? But in the entire thing, we gave up all our branch offices. 4 of them in metros, we closed them. We gave them lease back. The employees are working from home. They moved them on a data center based VDI, and they see faster connectivity. Only problem what we saw is when you migrate to cloud, when you're accessing your data on LAN, on your local on-prem services, you immediately find the latency is a big thing. And the first thing that they come at, the office server was faster. Sir, it is good, cheaper, but we are seeing a common example. You have Outlook, your Exchange servers on-prem, you move them to Office 365, you will get that a bit of lag when you start opening and clicking. The working cursor which had moved out of your life is back again. Yeah, it's like rendering. Sometimes with large mails you face, but it's part of the culture. You start getting used to it. And mostly when people come in, we also saw that the data growth has now started moving in, because now the desktops are now getting migrated to VDI. So the storage that we had to be increased around 4 to 5 times. Yeah, we made because we also had snapshots of everyone as backup in case someone's failed. We still gave him the last night's backup. You go live with a crash desktop, it's on the fly. Yeah, we did SAP installations in 3 days, or when a server crashed. Everything is now virtualized. So this is our story, how we did it. And as we said, it's still a journey, and we are learning from it. But we have now moved around 50% of people will be working from home. And we saw that because of this culture and model that we have, we are now accessible to remote to tier 2 cities. The people who could not come to Mumbai and stay, we could access that knowledge because they would be working from home. And we will get at a lower cost and better skills.
Superb. Thank you, Mr. Neha. That was an interesting story. And I like that app which you're referring to, which shows when people have logged in, how long they've logged in. I wanted to ask Mr. Jayanta. Jayanta, yeah, according to US and UK laws, is that allowed to track? But
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. So you're right. So US UK law doesn't allow, they're pretty much sensitive on privacy issues. And in fact, we have started a new app through which we can not only track our employees, but also see whether they are getting a mobile phone near their monitor, if there's somebody standing behind them, or somebody else is logging in and all that. So it's a AI-based solution we have. But for India, it is fine. UK and US, we are getting a lot of pushback.
yeah. I mean, I've dealt with and struggled with that as well. But it's very interesting, Mr. Nihar, and thank you, Mr. Jayanta, for coming in there. I'm going to move quickly to Mr. Rupesh. Rupesh, you're an expert on digital transformation, and we heard, both Mr. Jayanta and a couple of other panelists refer to it. I mean, moving to cloud, one of the key aspects is your applications have to be ready to move to the cloud, and you have to do that. There is a process of getting them cloud ready, right? So what has been your story and experience with digital transformation?
Okay. So in our case, basically the challenge was we are a integrated building products manufacturing company, and when we started with our digital transformation journey, it was key to understand that how do you set your priorities, because when you talk of digital, uh, it is a very wide area, and so you need to first have to decide what exactly, how do you want to start your journey. So we started with having a strategy document, strategy for digital, deciding which are the areas, picking on which are the areas we want to go with, and then also having a roadmap for that. So, because we are also into manufacturing, selling, so it was important to understand and pick up what exactly we want to do, and also to turn out in a very shorter time period. So we started with the sales area, customer, basically automation of the customer touch points. And as you are aware that now it has been like there are different technologies which have been implemented in customer touchpoint as well. Your AI, you have applications which are very data hungry. So the obvious choice was to have to move on to the cloud, because cloud plays an important role when you talk about the speed of delivering the application. So one is that when in digital, we started with a lot of experimentation, and to experiment we didn't want to go the traditional way of having everything on premise, because there the cost of the servers itself is very on a very higher side. So we went with cloud, which helped us to accelerate that process, took decisions on fail quick and learn quick. Some of them, then we could scale it up and have our processes in place. So we didn't have to worry more about the technology side of it. And digital and in cloud really helped us to accelerate all this process in terms of our learnings and experimentation. So in this case, I would say yes. If you and as the new applications, the ask for them from the new applications is data is a lot of they are hungry on the computing power. So it so cloud is something which will really help you to match with these needs of the new applications as well.
Thank you, Mr. Rupesh. So I'm going to pull in Saurabh. Saurabh, we heard a couple of themes here. One is what it takes to get your applications modernized to be cloud ready, right? So that's part one. The second part is moving to work from home, right? And many organizations have already traversed that journey, but it's a continuous journey for some, and there are still areas that can be optimized. Would you want to come in with your thoughts around these two areas specifically? How you can what case studies you're seeing, what trends you're seeing in the industry to address some of these challenges?
Definitely. So thank you very much. So in fact, talking about the first one, wherein we are meeting customers like the panelists which are there. So what we have seen is, although every customer is talking about, every organization is talking about being on cloud or moving towards the cloud, but it's not a very you can't just go there overnight, right? And that's where many of the organizations are thinking to either have a hybrid cloud approach, so wherein something is running on to on premise and some of the workload is moving to the cloud. The other option that we have seen is either give it to some third party organization or a co-location provider or a infrastructure as a service provider who is available locally, because what we have seen is the new law which is coming, the law of the land, right, wherein many of the organization would be asked to keep their data local and don't move it out of India, right? So considering that, and considering the cloud adoption perspective, hybrid cloud is the way to go. I haven't seen a customer who is having 100% public cloud exposure or 100% running everything out there, but it is more of a hybrid cloud. And even if they are having something or everything running on public cloud, they are looking for moving it back to on premise because of the overall the cost economics that goes. We have seen it actually goes up 2x to 3x, although it is in OPEX, but there are chances that you are paying more. And when you look back that how much I have spent, yeah, Jayanta sir, you were saying something. I think you raised your hand.
No, it's okay. You can go ahead. I just wanted to add something on the application modernization piece.
Yes.
So just to add to what you're saying, so there are we do two ways of application modernization. One is like-to-like modernization, so lift and shift kind of a model, and that happens mostly for the legacy applications which are there for many years, and there is no time or energy to change and modernize. So that is one aspect of it, but by moving that we'll get minimum benefit of cloud. But the other one is the digital application, which are AI, ML, analytics in nature. There we need much more modernization by using Kubernetes solutions, as well as AI, ML solutions. So there are multiple approaches, and not every cloud is friendly for every type of application.
Exactly.
We've seen that cloud type one, I'm not naming the cloud provider, but they are good at legacy application. There are cloud provider two, which are good at digital applications.
100%, sir. Thank you for adding to this. And in fact, what I've seen is I was part of one of such panel discussion, and one of the panelists has mentioned that if you are thinking of even adopting hybrid cloud, if you are 100% on premise today and you're looking for sort of hybrid cloud, you need to have a person, an expert who knows networking, to the core, right? Because that is the most important thing if you want to connect end to end. Okay. And as you rightly mentioned about the application modernization, there are, one is a lift and shift, other is a complete application, wherein you need to do a lot of coding. You need to change the entire landscape of from a monolithic architecture to a microservices architecture. To answer your second question, Sheena, is from the work from home perspective, what we have seen is, as the panelist has already discussed, there were customers who were ready to go on day one itself, right? Because they were sort of already having a timeline, a plan that the work from home is maybe way to go. So they were already prepared. There were customers who was like caught unaware, and they were looking for what are the options available. So out of the I would say n number of solutions available, there are pretty solutions, some of the solutions which are a bundled solution, I would say, which can which we had pitched to the customers, and they have adopted it very well. And obviously there was a cycle wherein there was a proof of concept involved, then all those functional testing was involved, and then they have adopted it. So maybe Vishy can add to that in terms of what are the solutions that are available.
Oh, yeah.
So Vishy, over to you.
Thanks, Saurabh. And I think from Ritu and Jayanta talking about scale of data, managing of that data earlier, to now we are talking from Deepak, and how do I get more insight from the data, and how do I build that data? So all the traditional ways of talking server storage, networking, concepts of management, monitoring, all of them have gone out of the window. We are talking AI, ML, getting more data insight, getting businesses to get people to get data scientists, it's a big thing. And I can completely understand the kind of project that goes on, and integrating behavioral science that is coming to retail and consumer market right now, which Asian Paints is going to do back B2B business also together, and getting that consumer experience is the most important thing. And you can't just do that by traditional IT, you know? 3 tiers of IT picture, not the good old Gartner's ways of saying platform one, which is server, and you need to have the third platform of application integrated. I can quickly pop you just a quick slide if you want me to, but what I can tell you is it is important we adopt new tools. It's important to look at modernization. Jayanta also has explained you need to categorize applications, which is now we do some repair so that we can get performance improvement, which are legacy application. Can I retain some of them and work with that, because it has to be hybrid and it has to be homegrown? It's heavily coded program machines. Can I do segmentization so that I can do microservices and move it to public, as well as scale back, scale down as well, from private to public as well? And I think, Nia, you've told it. Yes, public cloud works when it comes to media, but wait for the edge to go stronger. And I think everybody is waiting for this big 5G push and the backbone of fiber to be digitally connecting India. And once we have that, the entire gamut of doing, for Deepak's perspective, to get behavioral information from which region is doing which site item procurement more often. Can I do social media feeds for the same customer who's looking at my product, and integrate and show them what information that I show? That's going to happen once we have this backbone. But we should not let go the journey of having data, manage the large scale of data that's coming, and giving a lot of data insight into that. And I think it's I think we're in that cusp where we go very fast in the next 5 to 6 years. Yeah.
Thank you, Vish, and thank you, Saurabh. I'm going to move over to you, Sajid. Sajid, uh, for someone who's going to embark on this journey of modernization, whether it is modernization, moving to cloud, enhancing your data storage model, whatever it is, what are the steps that an organization needs to take to prepare themselves for undertaking a journey of this kind? What should one expect, and how long do you think? I mean, of course, it'll be a long journey for some. It can be a shorter journey, and it can be an ongoing journey. But what would you like to share for someone who's going to embark on this?
Yeah, sure. Thanks for giving me time. I'm sure we're running short of time, and I don't want to stretch much. But you know, I don't know many people know about TMF. We operate out of 83 countries, and I head the global tech for TMF. For us, the journey has been pretty challenging. We are not yet. We are not hybrid. We are. Our journey for this year is like, I'm looking at multi-cloud. Somebody touched up on edge. Recently, I don't see much people talking about edge in any of the conferences, because something which is coming up as a technology or a look. I have around 32 data centers, 32 server rooms, I would say, running on edge at this point of time globally for myself, and rest with all the data centers around. But yes, the challenges are going to be not very different from others what we spoke about. But an interesting piece which I didn't saw here, somebody was touching regulation. There is also a good amount of data encryptions which need to be which is being discussed at a global level as well. There are a lot of companies who talks about encryption at rest, encryption at transit, and stuff, which possibly is an area of interest which not much others touched about. And of course, too much to talk. But again, I'm being very conscious about time, and there are a lot of people more to talk. From you start with the journey, to answer you, Sheena, I think Ritu rightly mentioned, the amount of data which we need to look at. Probably a company like Ritu's or mine, like we are here for so many years, would be the way we segregate the data which we need, the hot and the cold, or what we want to use and what we don't want to use. So in a year before, when I was trying to move some of my data to cloud, that's exactly what we looked at. Because we had like data of 17, 18 years, which was just lying there. And probably, there are data which people touch us for last 3 months, 6 months, kind of a classification helped us really to look at it, not really migrating everything, but just let migrate what it needs to be.
And I also saw somebody touching upon moving back from cloud, and I'm one among the pioneers who would be doing that because of the cost. And no shame telling that, to be honest, because that's what most of the CIOs would have burned their hands and making things back or the data back to our infrastructure. But the technologies like Edge, the data classifications, migrate what you want to do should be a good one. And one key point which I have learned in this last 1 year while doing all this journey is don't try to pretend you know the next year. That's the best learning I had for the whole set of things. Right? Don't try to pretend whether it be data or migration or application or modernization. Don't try to pretend what is coming for 2021 and 2022. It's just that try to make something which can go get into the even something which can meet up the Bermuda Triangle and come out of it, something like that. So there's something waiting for us which we don't know. Don't predict. Try to go flexible and move on. That's what my learnings would be. Thank you.
Thank you, Sajid. That was good. And how have you tackled the problem of governance, discipline, which Ritu touched upon early on in the conversation? Is that a challenge for you at all, or?
Yes, I mean, Ritu nicely put it, from the sari to short way. But for me, it was very different because we operate out of 83 countries, and the cultures also matter, right? You can't really talk to a person in China to deal with the data, and to a person in Russia into a different way. So it's all different ways. The culture plays a lot of a big game in that, and that's been one of my biggest challenge. And I also heard somebody talking about keeping the data near. When somebody was talking about hybrid, keeping the data near. Near is not really just the geolocation. Of course, geolocation is something, but keeping the data near to the culture also makes sense when we want to do larger transformations. So keep to the culture, keep it near to the culture, keep it the way they want to be, and try to do all the background work of transformation from the back end, not really from the front end. So the less user changes you would be, the higher chances of your transformation being successful is there. So that's something which I do as my mantra, to make it successful. Else it's tough to deal with a company like TMF where we are culturally spread across 83 countries and trying to manage that.
That's great, Sajid. So to recap, you said one of the key preparation is how you segregate data and deciding where what kind of data will reside. I really like that. And so, secondly, you mentioned about don't try to pretend what you know what is going to happen the next year. And I think that is very well said. It's getting more and more in that realm right now. And lastly, keeping data not only near, geographically near, but also culturally near, a very valid point. And the lesser the change management you have to deal with, the easier from an adoption perspective. Great learnings, great points, Sajid. Ritu, I'm going to come back to you, Ritu. And what has been your experience in terms of putting in a model for your solution from an ongoing support perspective, governance perspective, maintenance and enhancements? Are you planning for any major enhancements, uplifts, after you've kind of done your phase one?
So see, it's an ongoing journey. It's what I've discovered it. This is an ongoing journey. It's a continuous monitoring which is happening. And while I say we are a very unstructured organization, and the point is compliance is playing heavily right now. So it is very important that somebody who's working on client A or only those people can access data for client A. And the moment you internally reallocate and put that person onto client B, he should no longer be able to see data of client A. So I think all those things are being put in place. It's a continuous thing. We are very, very, very heavy on compliance in terms of data custodian. We have a whole data compliance policy which is in place. As I said, I've always believed that in IT, it's very easy to put policies in place. It is a monster to actually implement it and monitor it. It's also fine when you're going and implementing it for sure, because you'll do one organization-wide session and then you'll say, okay, every induction program will continue it. But to make sure that people have not bypassed it. See, the reality is that you're getting something from the client. All these compliance rules, you're not supposed to say. Some clients will send you something in mail. There's nothing which is going to control you from storing it on your desktops. How do you control it? How do you go forward? So I think that is, and as I said, it's not a phase one, phase two, phase three thing. I think it's an ongoing thing and it's a continuous monitoring and continuously evolving on the solution and do it. So if you ask me, there are two challenges. One is to actually monitor and make sure that whatever we have put in place is getting implemented. Second thing is, on a continuously basis, we are on lookout to understand the new technologies which are emerging, to see what works, what can give me a cost advantage. See, one of the things I think most of the CIOs will agree to, or at least in my case for sure, is that I have spent a big chunk of last year just going and trying to see how can I save costs. See, the reality is that last year has had an impact on business and across. The moment you have an impact on business, it is going to bound down to, okay, where can we cut costs? Now you have to be able to figure out how do you optimize it without actually impacting the thing. So if I have to now, like when I say, when I was telling you I need a storage, I have to have storage forever. But I think at some stage we have to take, we actually went and got the teams in and said, I want you to go and physically clean up data. Because what another thing which happens in an unstructured creative data is, I'm working on something, I'll have 50 versions of it. You don't need all the 50 versions, and there's no technology solution which is going to be able to tell you, you need this version, you don't need this version. So you see one thing, that technology can, and the danger is that the moment you have a scenario, which is what is happening, is the moment I'm giving them, okay, this is a place on cloud, you can now, everything starts moving to cloud automatically, so your performance. So we've sorted the performance issue, it's working fine. But then what we're discovering is that there is no control on the amount of data which is going on the cloud. It's just going on and on and on. So then we have to figure out, to achieve the right balance, monitor it, at what stage do you do, how do you control it? So those, if you ask me, and it's an ongoing process.
Thank you, Ritu. That's very helpful. There is a strong theme of the cost being a cost-effective model for as far as cloud is concerned. We saw Mr. Sajid refer to it. Mr. Jayanta referred to innovative pricing model. So I'm going to pull in Vish. Vish, as for you, there are some really innovative pricing models that are coming out there.
Oh,
Right? Could you
absolutely.
talk us through some of them, and also how Dell is addressing this for your customers?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Sheena. And again, the data first, cloud as an OPEX was the thought process that everybody has, right? It gives me a leverage to spread it across. I don't have to do a capital investment. Connecting the thoughts of Rupesh, connecting the thought of Sajid. Again, applications behave. You need to modernize applications. You need to retain, refrain. Everything is a process. Now people develop in cloud and get it back home as well, like come back to hybrid, because agility is there, but they want performance and they want security. So there are developers working and coming back because I know I can come back and implement it at scale as well and scale out as well in the future. Now the other important thing is they give the agility to manage finance. Like I think every CIO's second hat is finance now, because I think finance comes to CIO first, then goes to business and asks them, okay, how much is the revenue? Okay, how much IT is going to spend? Because it's going to be glove in hand very closely. Now the important thing is what Dell is understanding this. We understand hybrid is going to stay long. We used to have something called as Dell Financial Services, where you can do leasing and finance only. Now again, when you go back to when all you guys CIOs go back to finance and say leasing, okay, there should be some markup, there could be somewhere there is a loophole. Try and get a capital cost as well. I think we'll go for capital at the end of the day. What we've come back now, I'm sure you will be hearing something very soon in May during the Dell Technology Award, and you can go Google it right now. It's called Dell Apex. So what it is Apex is a model of going cloud. It's pay as you use. You have your infrastructure. We mark up about 40% of the resources as soon as we start consuming it and bumping it up for you. We only charge you for what you utilize. Or we build an entire colo for you. You want to put it in a colo location. You want us to manage, because we've got something called as Cloud Console, which gives you utilization. What is the pricing structure that you want to use for those resources? The whole thing is, how do you want to? We're looking at storage as a service as well. We're talking just not compute, but we're talking only storage as a service. So all that infrastructure is not now leased, is not only managed as financial structuring. The whole thing is, how is the operating model of cloud. Can I get a cloud operating model? That means I know I just don't have to worry. It's an investment. Tell me how much do I have to pay per month? How much am I consuming? How much is my utilization? Do I need performance now, or do I need capacity? Do I need performance on servers capacity and so on? And manage it, come back to you and bill it. That's all it works. So cloud Apex, it's coming and it's globally accepted strongly, because look at how cloud guys have played. They started public, they realized latency security is an issue. Now they've come back to private, because you've got cloud vendors coming back and saying, take this infrastructure, put it in your environment as well, and we can move data. So it's collaboration. We've started here and we're moving there as well.
Thank you, Vish. I think we've kind of run out of time, so I'm going to invite all the panelists here to give some closing thoughts and remarks. And it will be addressed to clients who are embarking on this journey from the experience that you've had. Rupesh, I'm going to pull you in first. Would you like to share some closing thoughts for customers out there who are going to embark on a journey like you have done? What would be your thoughts?
Yeah, see today, basically when we talk about digital, we talk about cloud and we talk about data. It's we have to have the every organization, and plus now the COVID scenario, so, where we are under cost pressures as well. So I think it's important to have our priorities set. What exactly we have to do. And yes, there is a lot of potential in cloud, because you can run your projects seamlessly up and running quickly, and but you have to also be very choosy about, because there are a lot of options available, like you can pay by use model, which is something which we are working on, which has helped us also to have pilots run at a very low cost model. And then once you are convinced that this can be scaled up, then we can discuss, or then you can decide the change your strategy. So I think there are a lot of opportunities, but parallelly, there is a cultural aspect also which you have to take care about, as Deepak correctly mentioned about within your organization. How do you, because if you look at the new generation, you'll have tech savvy people coming in, and on the other side you have managers who are having vast wisdom. So how do you marry all these things? This is something which you have to take care of.
Thank you, Rupesh. Mr. Nihar, I'm going to invite you in. Your closing thoughts, please.
There is no fixed template that you have for migrating to the cloud. It's an individual journey. Everyone has to do their own work, see how the environment that they have and what are their priorities for that. Only thing that we can learn is from colleagues on their learnings and shorten the curve, the learning curve. But it's not a template. Everyone has to go through the grind.
Thank you, Nihar. Agreed, well said. Mr. Janta, your closing thoughts, please.
Yeah, just few points. One is cloud is here to stay. It's no longer a fancy stuff as we used to think 2 or 3 years back. It is a necessity. But having said that, while moving to cloud, one is to find out for what one is moving, which application is moving, what is the business case. First of all, we have seen a lot of cases where after moving to cloud, the cost increases. So you'll have to do a proper TCO analysis for 3 or 5 years. That is one aspect. Work from home is here to stay. We had a lot of deliberations, and I believe from an ITS business perspective, at least 60 to 70% of our resources will be working from home across the globe, and mostly in US and UK it is almost 90-95%. So cloud and work from home are going to play a very critical role, and they'll have to go hand in hand. And last but not the least, 5G technology is going to come up, and I believe that with 5G, cloud and data storage is going to be a big thing.
Superb. Thank you, Mr. Janta. Ritu ma'am, your closing thoughts. We start and ending with you.
All I'm going to say is that whenever one is looking at a solution, you have to have the end game in mind, but also keep in mind that the end game will change. What is your requirement today will change in the next 6 months, can enhance in the next thing, and don't try to spend a good 8 months designing a solution and then try to implement it. I think take step by step. Okay, I'm doing this much, then I'll do the next, because we are not living in that era anymore where we can afford to say that, we want to spend we want to do a project. I'm going to spend the next 8 months gathering requirements. Then I'll do the design, and after 2 years I'll deliver. By the time you deliver it, the technology will have changed. So it
Super.
doesn't work
Okay.
like that. You have to take small parts, implement, keep enhancing, go on.
Right, agreed. So as a quick recap, what we've heard today, and it's been a great conversation and great learning. First, we said the preparation for a transformation of this kind. Prioritize what you want to do. Prioritize your goals. Have a strategy for your data and what needs to stay where. Have a strategy around your culture, your data residency, and all of those aspects. Right. That's your internal prep. The second part, like Jayanta sir rightly said, cloud is here to stay. Work from home is likely to stay, and there's a lot of new age, innovation out there. 5G is coming, edge is coming, and there's really a lot that we're going to be able to leverage as we move along. And what we heard from both Rupesh, Nihar, and Ritu is there is no template. Be experimentative. And don't embark into a long project waiting for some great result. Take baby steps and move as you go. And Vish talked about a lot of innovative models from a pricing perspective that are out there that's available, which we can leverage as well. Thank you for this session. Thank you for this time, esteemed panelists. This has been a great conversation, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank
Over
you.
to you, Dimple.
Thank you, Sheena, for
Thank you all.
moderating
Thank you.
the discussion.
Thank you.
We will now end this session, which has definitely been very interesting and a perspective. And I'm sure our participants who joined us today would have got some rewarding insights. I thank the panelists for sharing the knowledge and experience with us. I thank the audience as well for being here with us during the Economic Times Digital Roundtable, powered by Dell Technologies and Galaxy Office Automation. Please join us for more such webinars. This is Dimple Bajwa signing off. Stay safe and healthy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.